In 1969, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins landed the Eagle Apollo 11 spacecraft on the moon. It was the first manned landing and was the greatest historical achievement for mankind. That achievement paved the road for future space exploration and for further technological endeavors. The United States relished in its glory in its new reputation as leader of the world for technological achievements. This was an ambitious goal set forth by President John F. Kennedy in 1961. Although he did set this goal, sadly, he was assassinated on November 22nd of 1963, meaning he wouldn't even get to see what he had started. Luckily for the U.S., John F. Kennedy's dream was ultimately fulfilled when the United States was the first country to put a man on the moon. Despite major opposition and previous failed attempts, non-support from NASA, and doubt from the American people, and multiple barriers, the legendary President John F. Kennedy pushed forward to have his dream actualized and become the first country to ever land on the moon. What the American people and all the nations gained was the understanding that, despite opposition and discouragement, if your dream can be a momentous one, then set that dream with your perseverance, ambition, dedication, and confidence. And if you care to dream big, it can become a reality, just as it did with Apollo 11. This newfound reputation for America would also open doors politically in many realms and for future relations, but most importantly, to cement the American reputation as being known as a powerful nation with the technology to be ready for any event that could possibly come around in the near future. Apollo 11 left a legacy in the hearts of all mankind, for now and for beyond. On July 20th, 1969, the whole world watched as American astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins stepped foot on the moon. The United States and the Soviet Union were competing with each other over space exploration. Now maybe you're wondering, what does this have to do with Apollo 11? Everything. This is the reason Apollo 11 actually started. Thankfully, because John F. Kennedy was the president during this period, he was the one that tried to make the first efforts, and obviously succeeded. The Soviet Union had already made grand strides before the United States. They sent the first artificial satellite into space orbit from Earth in 1957. In the same year, they managed to send a live animal into space to also fall into Earth's orbit. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins were all very qualified individuals to go up to the moon, who had a lot of background in flying crafts, making them eligible for the Apollo 11 mission. Neil Armstrong. Before becoming an astronaut, Armstrong was actually an aeronautical engineer, naval aviator, and a test pilot. Buzz Aldrin was actually more qualified than Neil Armstrong to be on Apollo 11. Aldrin completed 3 spacewalks while he was a pilot of the Gemini 12 mission in 1966. He took part in the Korean War, where he was commissioned by the U.S. Air Force, and he actually became the first astronaut with a doctoral degree. Michael Collins didn't actually step on the moon, but he was very experienced, as he had military background participating as a fighter pilot and a test pilot, as well as a major general in the U.S. Air Force Reserves. Collins was selected to participate in Gemini 10 with 13 other astronauts and spent his second time in space during the Apollo 11 mission, where he stayed in the command module orbiting the moon. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union sent the first man into space in 1961. The United States is naturally known for its competitive nature and wanted to take it one step further. Years and resources were spent researching how to create a spacecraft that was not only stable enough to be sent to space, but also ensured safety for the astronauts aboard. The goal of the Apollo 11 mission was to send 3 men to the moon and return them back to Earth safely. In 1969, the Apollo 11 spacecraft took off from the John F. Kennedy Space Center in Florida. 650 million people sat watching history be made in front of them. Allowing the public to see this historic event gave them trust and hope in the United States government. Also gave the opportunity to show the Soviet Union that we beat them in getting a human onto the moon. There were also some difficulties and errors that occurred during flight, like error codes, changes in orbit, cameras cutting out, and unplanned landing times/locations. The flight back to Earth ended up being 36 minutes longer than planned, and the landing was point shifted by about 250 miles. Apollo 11 had to splash into the Pacific Ocean due to bad weather conditions in the target area. The Apollo 11 mission showed the American people that the United States were able to actually achieve greatness and that we were superior over other countries in regards to the technological advances we made. Apollo 11 actually broke barriers in history because nothing like this had ever happened or been attempted before. Showed that the United States was able to beat the Soviet Union in regards to putting a man up on the moon. Scientific research expanded even more once the samples collected from the surface of the moon made it back to Earth. Gave us hope for a better future. Just pretend global warming isn't a thing. After accomplishing the dream of being the first to land on the moon, we laid the framework for planetary science from 1961 into incredible advancements today.